The fourth round of exams officially began. Lin summoned an extra skeleton warrior and, paired with Soul Flame, effortlessly defeated all the monsters in the first batch. The examiners were shocked to see Lin was able to summon another skeletal warrior. Lin yawned, feeling that this so-called entrance exam lacked challenge. The examiners grew more and more annoyed and decided to observe others first. Charlotte was using AoE skills to hold off and gradually wear down the monsters, while Richard maintained his bold and broad combat style. Wave after wave, most of the candidates gave up. They were teleported outside the trial tower one after another. Watching the live broadcast, Gao Yang was incredibly excited. As more and more students were eliminated, only 5 remained. These were the top 4 from before, along with a level 15 paladin from a prestigious family. He was well versed in the examination rules. Since he knew the last 2 rounds of the examination were crucial for scoring points, he had laid low up to this point and began to make his move now. Richard let out a roar and activated his Mayhem Berserker skill. In his berserk state, Richard went on a monster-slaying spree. Lin waited for a minute, and finally, the last wave of monsters spawned. But there was no difference from the previous waves. Under the gang-banging of the skeleton warriors, the boss fell. The fourth round ended with only 5 students passing. The examiner's voice echoed throughout, reaching the ears of everyone, both inside and outside the tower. Richard, already weakened from the after effects of his skill, struggled to stand, leaning heavily on his greatsword. Charlotte took a deep breath, thinking, with a top 5 rank, she should be able to enter Xiajing Academy. Mei looked solemn. Her eyes were set on the Xiajing Academy. There was still one final test, and if their performance wasn't up to par, they'd be eliminated just the same. Next, the examiner began explaining the rules for the last test, and the 5 remaining students listened attentively. They would be teleported to a battling realm where a never-ending stream of various monsters would spawn. Not only they were vast in numbers, but they also included elites, leaders, and even boss-level monsters. After explaining, the 5 were teleported into the battling realm. The scoring rules appeared in front of each person. There were 5 stages, and with each stage, the monster level would increase by 1, while the points for killing a mob would double. The landscape was vast, resembling a huge plain. Lin could feel that an unimaginable great battle had once taken place here. The sound of footsteps rang out, and a group of monsters came into view. Lin noticed that he couldn't discern the monsters' attributes and could only see their levels. As they entered Lin's line of sight, the 3 skeleton warriors beside him sprang into action, rushing at the lizard men. The skeleton warrior tossed the corpse of the lizard man toward the group charging at Lin. Lin utilized his corpse explosion skill, and in an instant, in the monitoring room, the examiners noticed Lin's points suddenly jump by 500. Lin then remained stationary, waiting for the remaining lizard men. He intended to use the same tactic again, but the next second, Lin was taken aback to find that the corpses had disappeared. This forced him to change his strategy. He summoned even more skeleton warriors, using them to lure the rest of the lizard men together. A skeleton warrior killed the nearest lizard man, then a thunderous boom erupted. Lin used his corpse explosion skill multiple times. The dark ground shook incessantly. All of the lizard man warriors were annihilated. Lin's points also shot up to 8,605 points, which even made Elder Ning completely speechless. Lin patiently waited for the second wave of monsters to appear. The sky turned a bright red. Dozens of fireballs, each with a diameter of about a meter, plummeted down like meteorites. He didn't have the time to dodge, so he ordered the skeleton warriors to leap into the air. The meteor-like fireballs slammed into the skeleton warriors, causing sparks to explode in every direction. On a higher platform, a group of level 16 lizardman mages wielded their staffs, launching a rain of fire attacks. Lin gazed towards the new group of monsters, and a slight grin appeared on his face. Countless warriors of the lizardmen tribe were charging forward, weapons raised. Lin, however, was unfazed. How they appeared didn't matter. All he cares about are the juicy points they give. Lin directed his skeletal warriors to charge at the lizardmen warriors. A crimson glow emanated from each skeletal warrior's weapon. With their rampage strikes, not a single lizard man could withstand more than 2 slashes. Lin raised his hands and used corpse explosion. A thunderous boom echoed. Explosions of corpses wildly spread. The lizard man warriors fell one by one. Inside the monitoring room, the examiners were shocked by the sudden point increase. It was clear that Lin possessed an overpowered area of effect skill. Several examiners whispered amongst themselves, suggesting that Lin's class might have surpassed the legendary tier. Inside the arena, a new wave of monsters appeared. The monsters appeared from everywhere, groups of 5, forming small squads of lizard man archers and fighters. At least 40 squads spread out around the perimeter. From a distance, it appeared as though Lin was completely surrounded. Inside the monitoring room, discussions revolved around the fact that in the history of their empire's final examination, very few had ever cleared the second stage. The examiners were all speculating, wondering if Lin could shatter the old record. At this very moment, the leaderboard updated again. Lin's total points had soared to 34,000. They soon realized that Lin had entered the second stage and subsequently eliminated over 200 monsters. In the capital of the empire, below stood the renowned Jiajing city, a colossal door hovering mid-air. Normally, this tower remained hidden. Its appearance signified the examination day of the empire. This was the trial tower's true form. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and the temperature dropped sharply. Nightfall seemed to descend instantly, as a malevolent black beam shot from the heavens, speeding towards the trial tower. A massive golden ethereal hand manifested in the air, attempting to block the sinister beam. A mocking laughter emanated from within the beam as its dark glow intensified. A cold voice chuckled twice, proclaiming, "You cannot stop me." In the center of the darkness, a massive demonic skull appeared. The skull sported 2 horns and sharp fangs, looking exactly like the depiction of demons described in books. The dark beam collided with the massive golden hand, both disappearing without a trace or sound. Suddenly, the sinister beam split in two. One part clashed with the golden light. The other dramatically increased its speed and in an instant swiftly entered the trial tower. With a loud bang, the demonic skull was crushed to pieces. 3 people appeared beside the trial tower, hovering in midair. One of them made contact with the trial tower to gauge the situation inside. They discovered that something had sneaked in. They realized that the abyss's target was the examinees within the battling realm. Suddenly, all of the monsters vanished. Immediately after, the landscape transformed. The atmosphere became even more oppressive in an instant. Lin immediately gathered his skeletal warriors, shielding himself. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice calling out to him. Turning around, he saw Charlotte. Both of them were clueless about the ongoing situation. Charlotte mentioned that she was fighting monsters when they abruptly vanished. Following that, streaks of light began to pierce the pitch-black battling realm. One after another, examinees appeared within. Then, a figure emerged. He introduced himself as Bai Yiwan. Bai Yiwan was one of the top powerhouses in the empire, revered by many as the White Divine. In the monitoring room, Elder Ning's expression shifted slightly, unsure why the White Divine would make an appearance. Demons from the abyssal world have invaded the battling realm. White Divine and others were currently repairing the rules of the battling realm, and the process would take about an hour. These abyssal demons were targeting the examinees. In the upcoming hour, everyone needed to protect themselves. Finally, he proclaimed, "We, the people of the great empire, fear no battle and face death unflinchingly." The examinees, all young and full of vigor, were filled with heightened spirits. Emotions ran high, and shouts of determination erupted from the crowd. Lin started to think rationally. Rumors had it that even the weakest monster within the abyss was of level 70. Elder Ning thought to himself, how could something like this happen? Suddenly, Elder Ning spoke, commanding them to inform those outside not to panic and to trust in the White Divine. Suddenly, a crimson moon appeared in the sky. It was the blood moon of the abyss. Clearly, the abyss was making its move. The students organized themselves in a battle formation. An icy voice echoed, looking over the young students, truly the future of the empire. He then claimed that sadly, all of them will die. Under the moonlight, A gigantic figure appeared within far. Level 19 Lizard Man Warrior, Abyssal Corruption. Someone hastily recalled that the battling realm had a level cap, with 19 being the highest. Before they could finish their thought, they were silenced, as numerous figures appeared behind the initial giant, within moments, at least 100 in number, slowly moving towards them. Charlotte's face turned pale with fear, and she instinctively moved closer to Lynn. It seemed that Lynn provided her with a sense of security. Lynn looked at the monsters carefully. These weren't ordinary monsters, but he believed he could handle them,